What is your name and what do you do?
My name is Campbell, and I am the, team lead for the WordPress core security team.
How long have you been involved in WordPress core?
A while. I think that my first actual contribution to WordPress core was about 10 years ago or so, but I got involved in using WordPress to build client sites and stuff quite a bit before that, and was kind of slightly involved in the community before that, but that's when I got really involved, I guess.
So how did you make your way to the security team then?
I think that was just kind of a slow, progressive journey. I started out by building a lot of WordPress sites for clients. Like I said, those clients eventually got bigger and bigger and more complex, and you had to understand a lot more security just to make sure that you were building sites that were sound for them to use and to support the level of brands that they were trying to run on them. And as I kind of learned more and more of that, I realized I really liked it. It's fun to use sort of that devious side of your mind to think about how to break things and then sort of flip over to the other side and figure out how to fix them. And so once I'm interested in something, I tend to learn a lot more about it very quickly, and so that was kind of my ramp up into it.
You've been a committer for a long time, but you've only been full-time with WordPress core for a few months?
About 5 months now,
5 months.
yeah. GoDaddy, I moved over to GoDaddy about 5 months ago, and they fund me to work full-time on WordPress core, which has been great and is what's let me have the time to lead the security team.
How has the transition to being full-time on core been different than you expected?
So I think that well, first of all, it's something that I wanted to do for a very long time, but over the years as I was thinking about it and imagining it, I really pictured myself writing code full-time, but instead of doing it for clients, I'd be doing it for core. And it seemed like once I had that time available, the needs were less around people to write code and more around people to organize things and organize people and help people push through the entire process and smooth out pain points. So I guess that's the biggest thing. It's been a lot less actually writing lines of code and a lot more just kind of getting things organized and working smoothly.
A lot of what you do is guiding developers with maybe plenty of development experience but less experience contributing to the core of WordPress. What advice do you have for an experienced developer, let's say providing whether it's maybe security disclosure to the security team, or maybe it's just digging in on their first core patch and they're having to think about the broader context of how what they're writing is going to affect people?
So for talking to the security team specifically for disclosing issues that you've found that you're worried are security related, I think that one of the most important things in that whole process is kind of a constant back and forth communication, which in the last couple months we've been working on very hard, making sure that none of those fall through the cracks, making sure that we get back to people very consistently and regularly. So there's a little bit more hand-holding through that process than there probably was in the past, which I think is making that a lot easier now. Unfortunately, that same process doesn't really happen if you're just trying to report a bug on track or fix one that's on there. The scale is pretty different. The number of security things that we deal with is still pretty small and manageable. We can put a lot of time and effort into the communication around those. Just regular bugs, there are so many, the number is so vast that it's a lot harder to keep that communication going consistently just from like the core team side, I guess. So as the reporter or as the person that's trying to dig in and fix it, the biggest thing that I can say is you're going to have to do some of that yourself. It's not just about writing the patch, it's also about bringing it up at dev chats, trying to find who else is interested to get it pushed through those more difficult places, which the difficult places are where people are at first just completely unaware, and then where people maybe aren't as interested in it as you are because no one cares about your bug as much as you care. And so kind of pushing through that by just constantly bringing it up and sort of being your own advocate as much as possible.
Pretty soon after you got announced as the security team lead, a pretty nasty security bug hit WordPress, and you led the process in just navigating how to go about fixing that while minimizing the risk of the various websites out there. What was that process like, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, there's nothing like trial by fire, huh?
Yeah.
The process was pretty intense. I mean, anytime that we're looking at a severe security issue of any kind, when you look at how many WordPress sites are out there, you start to see how big of an issue you're actually dealing with. There's a lot of kind of gravity that brings with it. And so, yeah, the process is a little bit stressful, but I think the way that we approached it was really to try to see what is the best thing that we can do for just WordPress users in general, for the millions and millions of people that are running sites on WordPress, whether it's some massive news site or someone's blog, just across the board, what's the best that we can do for them. And we tried to sort of weigh all of our decisions against that. And I think that helped us make those hard decisions.
In the end, with this most recent vulnerability, y'all decided to really postpone the disclosure as long as you could, even after you released the minor version. So, and you had auto updates, but then there was a delay essentially before you revealed the true nature of the release. Why was that different from a normal security release, and what made the team come to that decision?
Yeah, so first of all, we probably didn't try to delay it for as long as we could. 1 week and actually just under a week is not that long. We could have pushed it out much longer than that, I suppose. There's a balance to be had. I definitely think that disclosing vulnerabilities is important. It needs to be put out there so that people know what's happening, know what the risks are. With our auto updates, we were able to update millions of sites before the vulnerability was ever being exploited anywhere. We had the chance to work with several WAFs and quite a few hosts to track, to look for possible exploits of the vulnerability. We were able to get a lot of them to block and protect their users at a network level, which helped us start getting data back to help make those decisions, as well as start protecting some users while we continued to work on a solution. So that made a big difference in how that decision came out. And the other things that weighed into that were things like, is the vulnerability easy to script to automate, or does it require a lot of hands-on effort? If it's very easy to automate the attack, then as much lead as we can sort of give our servers to update sites and protect them, rather than having our computers race their computers and see who can protect or break the most sites first. So we tried to weigh all that and again do what was best for WordPress users in general, and I think that the way that we handled it protected as many users as we possibly could.
Do you have any idea of what percentage of either overall WordPress websites or top however many millions of websites were able to be patched before the disclosure itself happened?
I do not have
but it was
accurate percent, but it was millions of sites. It was definitely a lot of them, and of the ones that weren't, hopefully some of them were behind the WAFs or the hosts that we worked together with as well, being protected even though they weren't updated. It was definitely kind of a new step that the security team took in all that, but I think that it worked out really well.
I think the ability to auto-update WordPress websites and plugins directly from WordPress core team decisions and forced out through WordPress.org was made in WordPress 3.7.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on that decision, which was pretty controversial at the time, how different do you think WordPress's reputation would be today versus if that decision had not been made?
Yeah, I definitely think that would pretty drastically affect our reputation. I think that our auto updates, our forced auto updates for security releases, definitely set us apart from a lot of the other options out there, but it definitely kind of shows our commitment to our users and to keeping their sites safe and functioning. And I think that at this last release, the 3.7 branch is up to like 18 security releases. And yes, I would prefer that people update to the more recent versions of WordPress. I think that that's better for them and for us. But the fact that we know that people that are running 3.7 still are getting these security updates and are not having compromised sites. Anytime that a WordPress site is compromised, it doesn't look good for WordPress, even if that's somebody else not updating. So the fact that we can push out those updates really makes a huge difference.
Where should somebody go to learn more about WordPress security in general, and specifically about the WordPress security team?
I really don't know that we have a place for that. If you're reporting security vulnerabilities, that's best to do to security@wordpress.org. That's probably the best place to go.
As far as learning about security, I guess, do you have any favorite independent resources for security stuff, or would you say traditional PHP security?
Traditional
resources?
PHP security is a fantastic way to get started. I mean, obviously WordPress has some WordPress specific things, but I think that getting a base knowledge of security before trying to do the WordPress specific is really helpful, for sure.
And where should people find you personally?
I mean, you can get me on Twitter at Aaron Campbell. I'm in our Slack as Aaron Campbell, and aarondcampbell.com if you want to read the things that I post every now and then.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
No problem.